What's going on, everybody? To a super late night show with Dr. Kojo, checking in live from what was sunny Los Angeles, California, but it's obviously it's late night. So I'm checking in. I want to do a Q&A with you all today. Checking in pretty late. But as the great philosopher Drake once said, better late than never, but never late is better. But either way, I'm here. I'm ready to get it. Like I said, I'm checking in from sunny LA. I would love for you all to let me know where you're checking in from. Let's get it. Shout out to my late night crew for sticking around. Like I said, I am late. Mickey, Thicky, I'm actually 3 hours late. This is the latest time that we've ever gone on. So my apologies to you all. Let me start by saying that. My apologies. Push and P. Let me know where you all are checking in from, and then let me get to these questions. Let me see a little bit of you all's location. Houston, Durham, Texas in the house, New York City. All right, let's go ahead and get into the questions because your boy is late. What are some symptoms of ADHD for women? That was never diagnosed. I'm from NYC. Well, Emerald, let's talk about it with women. Well, so with ADHD, we have the inattentive type, right? Then we have the hyperactive, impulsive type, and we have the combined. So a lot of times women present with the inattentive symptoms, and that's why it's kind of hard to catch, right? Disorganized, feeling overwhelmed, zoning out, having a hard time keeping a job, having a hard time staying engaged at school or work. Sometimes those things are the things that women may struggle with in silence. That's why it's important for us as clinicians to really pick up on these kinds of symptoms. What do you wish people knew about borderline personality disorder? I wish that people would know that it's not as scary as the stigma makes it seem, right? People think that like BPD is like a death blow to relationships. And for some people it can feel that way, right? But it's gonna require you to do a lot of work, right? I'm not gonna lie to you all and say that if you have borderline personality disorder, your life is going to be smooth sailing. Like life isn't smooth for anybody, right? But with BPD, you just have to be intentional about putting in the work, doing what you can to get yourself to be a little bit better every single day with your interpersonal relationships, right? But there is hope, and I do believe that you can live a successful life with BPD. Christy, thank you so much. I appreciate you, Ms. Miller. Thank you so much. Does ADHD affect relationships? ADHD affects all parts of your life. And that's why, I'm talking about it so much online. I'm posting these reels. I'm posting here. I'm posting there so you all can know about it. And then, with my series, my Instagram, Facebook Reels mini series called Life of Mo, where we follow a fictional character called Mo, who's 15 years old. And we, go through his life with ADHD. So it affects all parts of your life. Let me see. So I spoke a little bit about this earlier, Mandy. I hope you caught that. Let me get to some of these newer comments. As a person who suffers from extremely aggressive ADHD, what are some good coping mechanisms for getting angry, even over the little things? Topher, I like this. So when you catch yourself getting upset about the little things, you have to ask yourself, like, do I want to pick this battle, right? Every single day, there's going to be things that you could expect it, Something's going to piss you off, right? When you wake up in the morning, something's going to piss you off. But I don't want to wake up in the morning and think, all right, something's going to piss me off. I'm just waiting for that moment to come so I can be pissed off, right? Look at yourself as trying to reach the goal, which is getting to the end of the day and being productive, right? So however you get there, whether it's linear, whether you zigzag, as long as you make progress, you got to give yourself some credit. So even if you get angry, don't be so hard on yourself for getting angry, right? Allow yourself to say, hey, I got angry and it is what it is. I'm not going to let this current moment of frustration mess up, the day I have right now. Kate says, how do I know it's time to consider inpatient treatment? So you can go to the inpatient psychiatric hospital, a couple of different ways, right? You might be sent there involuntarily, right? But a lot of times people may go voluntarily, right? You may feel like, hey, I think my depression is getting a little bit bad, or I think, my mental health is getting worse. I'm isolating myself a lot. Anytime you're fearful that your mental health is going bad, that's a good time to go for a check-in, right? It doesn't have to be inpatient treatment, but talking to your psych, talking to your PCB, talking to a trusted medical professional is never a bad idea, even when you think that something might be going on. Mariah, yeah, let's talk about PTSD and trauma. So, Mariah, you have to understand that PTSD is the body's response to something that happened to you that should not have happened to you, right? And a lot of times people will have PTSD and they don't know it, right? So you went through something traumatic and you still can't shake it off, right? But you're living life and you're doing the best that you can. It's not until you get into the chair of somebody like me or another professional that they say, hey, you have PTSD, blah blah blah, or wherever's going on. But the healing journey is actually a very frustrating one, and I'm all for being positive and posting my videos and smiling, but the beginning of healing is going to be very frustrating. So just keep that in mind. But you shouldn't try and duck and dodge it and be like, oh, I don't want to do the work. Like, we got to do the work, right? The goal is not to like we can't erase what happened to you. Unfortunately, if I could, I would snap my finger and we do that ASAP. We can't erase what happened to you, right? But we can go through it, right? We want to go through it. Sometimes people try and get over something. You're putting a lot of pressure on yourself to get over something, right? If you can get through it, that should be the goal. Really good question. Best relationship advice for future relationships after being in a toxic and abusive relationship for years. Raquel, the first thing that I would say is make sure you take some time for yourself, right? Whether this is 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, take some time for yourself to figure out what you really need, and practice different ways of setting down boundaries, right? So the next time you get into a relationship, you can really put your foot down, right? And it's going to be hard for somebody to run game on you at that point. Helping your team through manic episodes. All right, Susan, this is a good question right here. So I think with anybody who is, struggling with bipolar disorder, if you or somebody who's struggling with bipolar, it's helpful to know what mania looks like for you, right? If you know what mania looks like for you, then you can tell people around you, like, hey, when I'm starting to get manic, this is what happens. Like, if you know that your teen is starting to get manic, maybe they have some classic things that they do when they're starting to get manic. They talk a little faster than normal, right? You catch them up at 3 a.m., for some days and maybe weeks. You catch them falling behind on homework. You catch them making decisions that they wouldn't normally make, right? You catch them, well, I don't know if a teen would have a credit card, but you catch them maxing out on credit cards, things like that, right? So if you know what the beginning signs of mania looks like for your teen, then you can step in. Because with mania, we worry about safety, right? Amongst other things. So you can step in sooner than later and say, hey, I noticed that, something's going on. Let's get you back in the hospital, or, let's prioritize sleep, or let me hold on to your wallet a little bit, or let me take, I don't know how things work, but you can literally be like, let me take your card. Let me hold your card and I'm going to put it in my, whatever. And then you can have the rest of your cards, right? Because you don't want to make people feel like they're less than human when they're manic, right? You don't want to circumvent their independence and say, hey, all right, I'm going to help you out. So let me hold on to this card. You can hold on to that card. I just don't want you to spend up all your money, right? I don't want you to, just spend $700 and they were like, damn, we could have used that $700, right? All right. Can you compare ADHD to bipolar 2? I mean, you can have, emotional dysregulation, right? You can have mood swings with both. But keep in mind, between the two of these, only one of them has a hypomanic episode. With ADHD, there's no hypomanic episode, right? Now, you might stay up late at night a lot, right? You may talk fast, here and there, but it's still not a hypomanic episode unless you have ADHD and bipolar 2. But keep in mind, I've told y'all before that bipolar 2 for me is the hardest diagnosis to lock down. I think is fairly hard. I think I'm good at my job, but bipolar 2 can be hard. You really have to be a student of the game to lock this down. Can ADHD be caused by environmental factors? Stephanie, I am not so sure. I do think that there's a possible link between ADHD and traumatic brain injuries, but ADHD being caused by environmental factors. I want to look more into this. I won't BS you. I want to look more into it. Really good question. Really good question. Um, James, we're live. We're live right now. I know it's probably weird. I don't know where you're at. It's 9:20 in California, so it's past midnight on the East Coast. And it's probably like, what, 5 a.m., 6 a.m. in England. But this is live. This is live. I'm reading the questions right here. So if you're watching right now, you're watching live, right? And if you watch this after the fact, then these questions are not live for you. But everybody who's watching right now is live for you. Is there a cure for borderline? Unfortunately, there's not. But dialectical behavioral therapy is something that can be a game changer with borderline personality disorder. It can be a true game changer. I'm a big fan of it. How to cope with a partner having alcoholism? Empathy. That's the first thing, right? That's the first thing. You want to have empathy for somebody because nobody chooses to be alcoholic, right? Nobody wakes up one day and they're like, "Hey, I want to be alcoholic," right? These things happen over time, so you have to have empathy for them. They need to put boundaries in place, right? Just because somebody's struggling with substance use, right, doesn't mean that you have to judge them. But at the same time, you have to put boundaries in place. You have to say, "Hey, I love you, but I can't let you take the car out this weekend because sometimes you drink and drive. That's dangerous, right?" I'm just making up a scenario, right? Or say, "Hey, I'm not gonna give you this extra money because I don't want to fuel your habit," right? So you have to put your boundaries out, and sometimes you may have to separate yourself a little bit from them, but you should never lose that respect for somebody. Never ever lose that respect for somebody. Yes, Amanda. So with OCD and intrusive thoughts, I think two things. You can have intrusive thoughts without having OCD, right? And it's important to understand that you are not that thought, because it can be very embarrassing to be like, "Oh, why am I thinking this? This is weird. I don't think I'm this person. And with OCD, of course, it's important to get professional help, therapy. We use medications, antidepressants sometimes. Sometimes mood stabilizers, but yeah, there's definitely hope for people with OCD. Uh, Gigi, I love all you all. Thank you so much. I can never thank you all enough for the platform. I know you all might get tired of hearing that, but like without you all, like every single person who's watching now, everybody who watches after the fact, I do appreciate y'all. Without y'all, I don't have this platform. I take that seriously. I'm not married yet, but I'm thugging it out as a single man, at least in my taxes, and I'm having a good time. I'm having a good time right now. But whenever I get married, I'll have a great time too. So Angela, duloxetine Cymbalta while nursing a baby. This is important. This is where it's important to talk to your. I can't give you medical advice and tell you take Cymbalta or don't take Cymbalta. I can't do that. But I can tell you that here it's good to have like your psych, right? Your psych, and ask them this question. And also, if you have a psych and you have your OB, right, and they're collaborating on this, I feel very confident about your chances to do well. I think you do well regardless. But whenever I had a patient who is either pregnant or in the postpartum period, as long as they had like a PCP and OB, like we work together as a team. Sometimes I read and see what the OB says. I want them to read what I say. We have to be on the same team. We gotta be on the same team. Let me see. How to be supportive for someone in recovery. Empathy. This can be difficult if you don't struggle with that particular thing, right? Just keep in mind that, I don't think anybody wants to get hooked on something that's going to ruin their life, is going to tear apart friendships and relationships. So having empathy can go a long way, and it can really help to be that catalyst for that person who's like, dang, like, I want to do better. I can do better. Then they do better, right? Best ADHD meds. I don't think there's a one that's better than. I don't think anything is head and shoulders better than anything else. But with the stimulants are first line, right? So we're talking about Ritalin, Concerta, Vyvanse, Adderall. Those are considered to be first line, but we still use other forms of ADHD meds. And man, my hair is getting long. I'm like, make you think my hair is getting low. Thugging it out. Yeah, nothing is wrong with thugging it out. Like not being married. I think if you're not happy, before marriage, I don't think marriage is gonna make you happy, right? So just keep that in mind. I have ADHD and a huge mental block at work. It's so boring there, but much needed. How can I handle the situation? Emily, how can you make work fun? That's the first thing that I think about. Like, work should be fun. I mean it. Like, work should be fun. Like, now I'm making content online, so whenever I'm making videos, I was collabing today with a couple of folks. I'll be collabing again tomorrow, doing a virtual collab. I have fun. Like, I'm recording the bloopers. I'm having fun. And without making the work fun, I can't do anything. Believe it or not. Like, if I didn't enjoy this, do y'all think I'd be here? This is midnight on the East Coast, 9 o'clock here in California. I'm in LA. I mean, a million things to do. I could be down in Hollywood or something, but I enjoy doing this. Nobody has to, grab me by the shoulders and make me do this. Like, I'm having fun. You can't fake fun, So how can you make work fun? Like, maybe do 10 push-ups every time you complete this. Like, for me, I would lock myself in the office back in Virginia, and I would do push-ups. So like I do like a little dance in the office, and nobody can see me. Yeah, you gotta make it fun. Becca, welcome. I see you finally caught one live. Welcome. Ms. Lewis, I appreciate your attention. And it doesn't get easier, but you get stronger. Like, you're getting stronger, Ms. Lewis. I've been raw dogging. And I've been raw dogging reality. I'm afraid to take medication. What do you recommend I do for my BPD instead of taking medication? All right, so Hannah, this is what I can and can't do. I can't, like, I cannot come here and say, Hannah, I want you to take lamotrigine, right? I don't even know who you are, right? But what I can tell you to do is to follow the recommendations of your licensed clinician, whoever's seen you, and they say, I recommend X, Y, and Z. I would follow that professional recommendation because they've seen you and they have like done a whole evaluation on you. So there's nothing wrong with taking medications for your BPD or for whatever, right? And there's nothing wrong with being afraid to take the meds, right? I think that's relatively normal to be afraid. So allow yourself to go through that normal, wave of human emotions. And I would say trust your licensed professional. If you have somebody who's helping you out and prescribing you meds, and I'm happy because that's somebody who could actually help you out. So I'm rooting for you. Can a relationship work with one being bipolar and the other borderline personality disorder? Yeah, it could work. Will it be hard? Yeah, it could be hard, right? But if both of you all struggle, right, then one person knows that I have my struggles and the other person that they have their struggles, right? So how can we have empathy and help each other out, right? But most definitely you can do it, right? What's a good way to get motivated to get out of bed? So sometimes anything I say might not work because, like, if you're severely depressed, you may be in bed all day and there's nothing, like, I could do my dance a million times, you might not get out. But the first thing that comes to mind is try and put your most exciting task of the day in the beginning, right? Like, if there's something that you look like, if you're depressed, you can't get out of bed, but you enjoy bike riding, put the bike riding at 10 a.m. So you got to get out of bed by 10, right? Because you have to go bike riding. And now you have energy to start your day. So that might be helpful for somebody. Sarah, Elizabeth, and Jordan, thank you for your attention. I appreciate you. Heart damage and ADHD meds, tell us some good and bad. So Danny, once again, this is where it's like individualized. Literally, you talk to your provider, right? They may want to get an EKG, just to take a good look at you and see what's up. They may want to get an EKG, and that might determine, or maybe your history might determine what meds they want to put you on, right? So this is why we can't WebMD everything, right? We can't like Google it up. You go to a professional who's like, all right, well, you have this, you have that, but I feel comfortable prescribing you this, right? So this is where an individualized care plan works. Yes, I've heard of Endeavor for ADHD. I actually did work with them, and I thought the idea was super cool. And there's evidence that showed that like gaming could be helpful for certain kids with inattentive type of ADHD. Let me go back and get the actual evidence. I want to get the actual right thing, Ms. Moore. But I did work with Endeavor. I thought that the concept was super cool. Like video games for kids with ADHD, and I think video games can be very therapeutic, right? But anything in excess is bad, right? And I'm a big video game fan, but I mean, I'm a busy guy. I can't be spending 12 hours a day on video games. And Endeavor, I want to say it's like 30 minutes a day for a couple times a week. I'm not sure. I gotta go back and look at it. But anything in excess, too much sex is bad, right? Anything in excess is bad. But I do think that there's a place for video games for people with ADHD. And I actually have another channel here on Facebook. It's called Gaming with Dr. K. I'm gonna start posting content on there for the gamers. So I'm about to reach that community. Tegan, thank you for mentioning that. I appreciate that. How can I better support my partner with BPD while managing my ADHD? Uh, look on the bright side, right? If you have ADHD and they have BPD, right? You might be able to relate to them because you all may both have mood swings, throughout the day, right? So you can have some empathy for them, so you can understand where they're coming from. ADHD is different from BPD, but maybe you can take that common denominator and use that to have empathy for them. Any tips for working with students who have emotional disturbances? Yeah. So Savannah, I'm not sure your role. Maybe you're a teacher, maybe you're a volunteer, but whatever your role is, allowing the kids to. First of all, here's the thing: if you have a student who is, being disrupting the class, like we're not gonna allow the class to be disrupted, right? The show got to go on. You feel me? So I need you to like put boundaries down and say, hey, like I know you're having a rough day, but let's do this. But I would say the biggest thing is if you're gonna talk to a child, find a nice way to like talk to them in private and not like put them out there in front of their peers. That could embarrass them. But at the end of the day, we can't stand for like we cannot allow kids to run the classroom. Like the teachers gotta be the teachers and the kids gotta be kids. Parents gotta be parents and kids gotta be kids, right? And I don't have any kids yet, but when I'm a parent, like my kids are not going to be running game on me, but you got to learn, or I'll have to learn whenever I get to that point to not embarrass that son or that daughter because like they're their own person, right? So just we need boundaries, right? But try to do it to where you don't embarrass them. Bipolar, when I struggled with addiction, been clean for 7 months. I was just told I need a spinal fusion. How do I not fall back into my addiction when I have to go back on pain meds without a good support system? So, Michelle, the good news. So when I read your question, I'm looking for the good news here. So, like, I read your question, I look for the good news. I did see that your last name was Chesney, and I'm like, is she related to Kenny Chesney? But I'm not gonna get distracted here, right? But the good news is that you know what like your trigger is, right? You're afraid that I may do this and I might fall back into addiction. So this is where you can talk to your psych, talk to the person who's managing your pain meds and say, hey, this is my concern. I think I may do this and I don't want to do this, right? And then in the meantime, so you talk to your professional doctors, right? And they're going to put you in a good position. And then in the meantime, let's work on how can you develop a good support system. Like, my page, we have what 300 and almost 400,000 people here on Facebook. 400,000 people. You can post something on the comment, and then people can reply. I'm going to start a Facebook group soon where people can just get in there and just talk amongst each other. Right? You might live in South Dakota. You might meet a friend in Tennessee. So maybe tap into your online community, and maybe tap into family members and see if you can rekindle some friendship, some relationships. And then also get help from your providers, but you have to believe that you can overcome, and then you can start to put the steps in order. So I think you got it. Mrs. Michelle, I think you got it. What are some coping strategies for ADHD? I don't want to take drugs, and at 40, I doubt I'll get the right diagnosis. So obviously, I think professional help is an answer, but I think not judging yourself, understanding that you will not do everything in a day. That's so important. For me, like the ideas that go through my head, Kendra, what's up? Kendra M, what's up? The ideas that go through my head every day, the things I want to do, I probably get like 30%, 20 to 30% of everything that I want to do in a day done. Literally. like you all see the followers and like all these different things like that I have coming up. And May is going to be a huge month. I have like a big project coming out, and I have another project, and I got like 3 big projects coming out for Mental Health Awareness Month. So I'm excited about May. But like I'm operating at like 20% capacity, like, and sometimes I have to tell myself, Kodo, chill out. We can't do everything. So just understand that you'll never do everything, but you can do anything, right? You can do anything. I mean, within reason. So set yourself up to where you don't set yourself up for the okie doke, right? If that makes sense. Does ADHD affect handwriting? I mean, it could, but I don't. Maybe you may have something else that's complicating the handwriting as well. Yeah, I said that could be Kane Chesney's sister or something like that. How do you get somebody help who struggles with disorders and they are dangerous? So once again, if there's a safety issue, I think if it's a safety issue, then it's like an urgent situation. I would like that person to get professional help, get some people involved in the calls. We have to get them in the hospital. If it's someone's a danger to themselves or other people, that's an urgent situation, right? Urgent and emergent situations require urgent and emergent solutions, right? So the quickest path you can take to get that person professional help is the answer to me. Am I worried about negative consequences? With what? With what, Susan? I'm not worried about negative consequences with anything. I mean, I think as a content creator online, I worry about posting something that could offend somebody, and the fallout from that. But even then, I appear as myself, and I want to do my best job to be authentic. So if I mess up, I hope people would extend grace to me, but I don't really worry about negative consequences too much. How do you come down from mania? So when I was working back at the psychiatric hospital, we would use mood stabilizers and antipsychotics, to help bring people down from mania, and then also we allow them to sleep. If you're in a controlled environment at home, maybe family members can it all revolves around sleep. That's the thing with mania. Like sleep is one of the best things that you could having a regular sleep schedule for somebody who has bipolar disorder. Like it's almost mandatory, or at least what I would tell my patients. Like you really want to watch your sleep. Watch your sleep. Make sure you're taking your medications, and make sure you know who to call should you need something. Should you get into a jam? And we've been going live for 28 minutes. Around the 30-minute mark, it'll be time to do the water break. So you all, y'all got about 2 minutes to get your water next to you. 2 minutes to get your water next to you. I was fired from my job of 3 years due to BPD. Any advice? First of all, I want to say sorry that you got fired from your job, and give yourself time to grieve it, right? And then after that, understand that you are capable and that you can get a job. And then, look at the bright side. You had this job for 3 years. The next job, you can have it for 4 to 5 years, so give yourself some space to say, hey, I could not hold this job, but right now you can't be too hard on yourself because you just lost your job. Marissa needs to be super nice to Marissa right now. Okay. And don't judge yourself. And, the BPD is not an excuse. It's just an explanation, and you have it, but you can still overcome and you can still live your best life. Catherine, I did have a good day today. What kind of question is that? Yeah, I got my water. Kendra, ooh, what's your best tip for maintaining strong and healthy boundaries? I would say for me, I like to, because I'm so busy, I like to take time and ask myself after I leave a situation where I think either I was disrespected, or if I leave a situation that I don't feel as good, I like to ask myself, why do I not feel good? And what do I need to do to allow myself to feel respected in this situation? And then when I can lock in on that, then, I want to speak up. Speaking up sooner than later is the best way to get the boundaries to be in place, right? So I would just say, hey, we hung out. Maybe you didn't mean to do this, but I felt disrespected by this, and I'm just letting you know because, maybe you didn't mean to do that, but that for me is it's a trigger. Let people know, and then you'll get to know whether that person is somebody who wants to respect your boundaries. Because maybe they're IDGAF. In that case, that's cool. I wish you the best of luck, but I'm gonna have to separate myself, right? Time for that water break. I need somebody to drop that magic word in there. I need somebody to drop that magic word in there. Can BPD ever be truly managed? So the standard treatment that we use for BPD is dialectical behavioral therapy, which has been very helpful for a lot of people. But some people need DBT and meds. Some people need just meds. Like I think no two cases may be the same. But I've had patients who had BPD who did not take meds, and they struggled, but they did fairly okay. And then it was their decision; they didn't want to take meds. If you suffer from depression, how do you handle family who say just be positive? Try not to explain yourself to them, right? Because it's hard to explain depression, right? Maybe send them a video of mine or something like that. But if you're depressed, you're already kind of like low on energy. So having to explain strips you of energy. So just be mindful of that. Let me see if somebody dropped they dropped the magic word in there. Cheers. 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 Big cheers. Big cheers. Thank you for answering my Michelle. I'm very sorry to hear that. You're not related to Katie Chesney. Okay. So if you're blocked and you can't reach out to them, the first thing that goes through my head, maybe send them a letter. Say, hey, this is, your daughter, your sibling Michelle, just thinking of you. I love you. Something like that. And hopefully you can rekindle that relationship with your loved ones. No, the magic word is cheers. Cheers. ADHD here. Is there really a way to not need meds? I think so. I think with ADHD, you could get to the point where you don't look. It depends on the person, right? So I think if you have a lot of resources at your disposal, you may not need meds, right? But the average person, in my opinion, does not have multiple assistants, a housekeeper, a maid, a chef, a driver, an organizer, right? But if you have all those things, right, then the need to have like extreme focus is not, you can have space to have a lot of executive dysfunction because you have everything being taken care of for you, right? So if you have resources, if you have a system that works for you, you may not need meds, right? Or if you're using exercise or using, diet and nutrition modifications. But it does depend on the person. Is ADHD and OCD together common? I've had patients who've had both together. I don't know how common it is, but you could have both. Recommendations for partners of these people. So be very understanding, Skylar, and you look when it comes to mental illness and relationships. You have to be you're either in or out. Like you're not like halfway. Like, yeah, I kind of want to be with you. Like you have to, you're there or you're not. If you choose to be there for that person, do your best to understand how ADHD and OCD affect them, and then do your best to say, hey, like I understand that this affects you this way, and I want to help you out because I love you. How can I help you out? And asking that person what they need. But at the same time, like you still have to have boundaries for them, right? If they're late everywhere because they have ADHD, say, all right, I know you're a little bit late, I want to help you out, but uh, this one thing, like Skylar, you can say, my parents are having this dinner party at the lake or whatever. This is a really big event. Can you please come here at 7 o'clock? And it starts at 9, but say just come at 7 o'clock because this event, like I really want you to get here on time. Whereas with other things, you might say, hey, I'll give you like a 5, 10, 15-minute grace period, but like this is one thing that I need you to come here on time, right? So just work with them, right? Work with them, and once your partner knows that you're on the same team, things should get easier from an empathy perspective. Self-harm and bipolar one. All right, so with self-harm in general, I think we should talk about it. It's important not to, judge people, who engage in this type of activity, but more so provide a safe space for them to talk about it, and also an alternative. Like if you feel like you have the urge, what can you do instead of the urge that's productive, right? Can you think of something that you can replace that with? I've seen that to be very helpful for my patients. Um, a lot of folks from Arkansas. Okay, okay, respect. Cheated my husband, destroyed my family that I love so much when things were going well. I can't stop ruining my life. What do I do to climb out of this pit? So, okay, a lot of folks might not know, but like I've seen a lot of relationships come back after somebody has been cheated on. You know, I don't think cheating is as big a deal breaker as a lot of people think it is. I'm not saying that, I'm not excusing cheating. Just hear me out. But I'm saying that if you cheated or somebody cheated on you and you all still want to make it work, there's still hope. So that phrase that you just typed in, I can't stop ruining my life. Uh, if we can shift that to, you know, I'm ruining my life at this moment, but I have hope for the future that I can turn things around. That's the first step of climbing out of that pit. Hanging around people who believe you, and whether your husband will come back or your family will, things will come back and be cohesive. You can't control that, right? Because that's another person. But you can just put yourself in the best possible position to to make amends and to make things right. So you're already remorseful, so keep going. Don't judge yourself. Do the small things, whatever you can do to build your confidence and to help put things in place. Like if you cheated because of poor boundaries in this area, you've done the work to say, okay, I know why this happened, so now I'm going to make sure that I don't do this again for the future. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would say. And give yourself some grace. Give yourself some grace. Um, uh, let me see. Ooh, right here. Well, I didn't mean to click that, but let me answer it. A good thing, therapist. Uh, I would say when you talk to a therapist, feel them out. Maybe give them 1 or 2 sessions, but ask them questions as well. Like ask them like, what's your practice philosophy? Like, do you have experience seeing people like me? Like if you identify within a certain group, say, hey, I identify within this group, or I have ADHD, or I have whatever. Or have you seen people like me before? And make sure that you feel comfortable with them as you proceed. What are some signs of toxic relationships or mental abuse? So Shams, you may or may not have seen my gaslighting video, and I got a couple of those coming out later on, and I would say watch those. But a lot of times in a toxic relationship, you're not going to feel safe. You're not going to feel secure. With mental abuse, you might be somebody might be gaslighting you. You might feel like you're playing mental gymnastics. You never really feel like safe within a relationship. You don't feel like you can be vulnerable without being judged. So it's important to know these things. And sometimes if you're in a toxic relationship, you don't know until it's over. So I would say keep that in mind. All right. So let me answer this question and get out of here. Love from Detroit. Shout out to my Michigan people. Parenting kiddos with BPD, trait symptoms as a parent with BPD. So Mel, I would say if you have BPD yourself, then you have a good understanding of how it works, right? So you can, if you're at that point where you can have that conversation with your child and you're saying, hey, like I have this thing, you have this thing, or you may not have to even disclose it, but you can say, hey, put boundaries in place. Hey, I need you to do this, this, and that, and give them grace. They're gonna mess up, but letting them know that they have to do certain things. Like kids have certain responsibilities. You can't get around that. So make sure that they fulfill those duties. Give them space if they mess up. But if they're intentional about not following through with things, you have to put your foot down a little harder and say, hey, I really need this. But making sure that your child knows that you love and support them is paramount, right? Especially with borderline, maybe it might be some splitting going on. One time you're the good parent, the next time you're the bad parent, and then they're judging you, and calling you names, but as long as like you've made it clear, and of course you love your kids, but as long as you made it clear, like, hey, I love you. There's nothing that you can do to not make me love you, but you still got to get your work done. We still got to get to school in the morning. You still can't be rude to your teacher. I think those boundaries and being firm with love is going to go a long way. So hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully that's helpful. So, but yeah, I gotta get out of here. Yeah, get a few more things done, and then get ready for a big day tomorrow. So, I will see you all. Good night, y'all. And I appreciate y'all. I always say it every live, but I really do appreciate y'all, and I appreciate your attention. And we're gonna keep learning. We're gonna keep having fun on this platform. So, hope you have a fantastic night. To those people on the East Coast, thank you for staying up with me. If you had to go to sleep, no worries. You can catch the playback at a later time. But take care. Love y'all. Peace.